When you went from the auxiliary, what it was, the auxiliary WAC unit, then they incorporated it into the Army and called them the WAC.
Colonel Hobby is the one that done that.
Okay.
Because we used to have to perform, parade for her.
Okay.
And they took us to Des Moines, Iowa. There used to be an old cavalry post up there, and they took the stables and made barracks for us to sleep in. We had 3 tier beds. And they'd take us out in that wheat field and drill us and march us and run us, and it was snowing and it raining, oh God. It was a trainload of us. When we went from L.A., I lived in Pasadena. When we went to Des Moines, this whole trainload was full of girls. And when they had to have a different oath then, and go in this regular Army, because they saw they were so helping. That's when we went into the regular service. And I got out. When I was overseas, I was sick over there, and I go blown through the air.
Well, now go back. You went into the regular Army, and you trained under General Hobby.
Under Colonel Hobby.
Colonel Hobby. And that was a woman. Do you remember her full name?
No, I don't. I can't remember. Honey, that's too far back.
All right. How long did you train? 2 or 3 months before you went overseas?
I can't remember because I was in our base up there. We had B-17 bombers. And down in El Paso, Texas, they had B-24 bombers. So they transferred me from there from El Paso, Texas, because out east of there was an old cavalry outfit, and there's B-24 bombers there. And I didn't stay there too long. I was a sergeant. We took about 25 girls or something and went down at opened up that new base. Our commanding officer and the mess officer was already down there. And
okay, now Miss Inez.
I don't think I stayed there a year. Then they sent me down in Fort Oglethorpe in Georgia.
Okay.
And I got that training there overseas, and throw that smoke screen down and throw gas in there, and they'd make you go through that without your gas mask so far, so you can get it and put it on, because that gas burns you. Oh, it burned on your arms and on your boobs and your legs, and we had to go through that cloud of smoke, and you don't know which way you're going.
All right,
and I was in there stumbling on someone, and I kicked them, and I said, "Who's there?" And she said, "PFC Fox." I said, "What's the matter, Foxy?" She said, "My gas mask leaked, and I'm sick." I said, "If I get out of this soup," I said, "I'll report it." Well, when I got out, I did report it, and they went in there and got her out and put her in the hospital. She damn near died. That gas mask of hers leaked. They'd make you go into a room with the gas burning in there, and you first had to go in there without that gas mask because you had it on you. And then you had to grab it and put it on a certain way. And they marched you around in there, and then you went out the door.
Okay, now you said you were a sergeant.
Yes.
You must have done pretty good to have earned your stripes.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I had my stripes.
Okay. So what unit was that? When did you join the paratrooper unit? Was that the one from the beginning?
Mm-mm. The beginning was, we didn't have nothing, we had to pay for our own mail.
Okay.
And we had to pay for our insurance. And we had all that training, and it'd go out on those different bases. But the government saw that they were doing such a good job in theirs when they went into we had to take a different oath.
Okay. So, all right.
And all them girls got out. That was what was left of my company.
Oh,
They all got out.
They didn't want to stay under
No.
the regular army?
No, they didn't want to go in the regular army. They got the hell out of there. If they could get a discharge, they got out.
All right, now tell me, who trained you, women or men?
Signed you where?
Who trained you in
Both.
your training?
Both.
Okay.
I had a nigger when we was going through. We called him a nigger. Going through, see, we was sent from down south to Camp Shanks, New York. And they had this nigger, a medic, and was getting the shots. Hit you. You go through and another and it'd hit you, giving you shots. Before they sent us, put us on a train and sent us to Camp Shanks, New York, up there. And we only stayed up there a very few days. And they took us and down to the ocean where the ship was and loaded us on that ship, troop ship. They were down in the mess hall. You never saw so many troops on there. And then on the outside of that ship, they had hammocks hanging up, and men was sleeping out there, 'cause we was in this end, the tail end of the ship. And there was 7 of us in that little dinky room. They had 3-tier bunk beds in there.
Do you remember the name of the ship?
Huh?
Do you remember the name of the ship?
No, I can't remember. I can remember the one that come back on. It was called Aquitania, I think it was called.
Okay.
I can't remember it. I've got them pictures in my album someplace.
We'll look at those in a minute. So you're 7 of you women in one room.
Yeah.
Was that all the women that went over on that ship?
Oh, hell no. They were full. That little old dinky room wasn't big, but they just bunk beds, 3 of them. And all of us is in there. We had to sleep with our clothes on, and you couldn't get no air, and I laid down in the floor and breathed the air from the door that went out in the hall, and you opened up another door, and it was out at the tail end of the ship.
Did you get sick? Seasick?
No, I didn't get seasick.
Did some of the other girls get seasick?
Yeah, they was irping all the time. You had nothing to irping in. There wasn't no toilet there. It was hell. And I'll tell you what, we couldn't get Kotex. And they'd tell us about a cotton. And we'd take this cotton and put it in our pockets. And when that got full, we just had to reach up in there and take that cotton, and we had to dig a hole like that with our shoe, put that in there and put dirt over it.
But that was after you were out in the field.
That was after we was overseas.
All right,
And
where did you land from the ship? Where did the ship land?
Taking us over there, Gork, Scotland.
Okay. So you land there in Scotland.
I landed in Gork. That is the north part. Oh, that country. Oh, I hated that country over there. And then they put us on trains and took us down to London, on the west side of London, and put us in old buildings. And they had a board fixed up next to the wall, and it was straw, and that's what we slept in. And we go to the mess hall, and we had our mess kit. We had to eat out of them. Oh, that's hell. Over there where that monster was.
In Scotland.
Yeah, I went over there and saw that. I went all over the cliffs of Dover. I went down in there. Went to Windsor Castle. We was stationed in that forest there, Windsor, Sherwood. We were stationed in Sherwood Forest in tents.
Okay.
We slept in tents.
Okay. What was your duties? What did you do? What did you women do?
I had 5 MOS numbers. I was qualified for different jobs, and they'd throw me into one. Maybe I didn't know any damn thing about it. I learned it.
What's the MOS?
That's your number.
Okay.
We landed in Gorick and got on them train, all of us. And we had a debutante, she was, had over us till we got down there, and then they throwed us in them old buildings. Sometimes when we'd be out in the field when they're fighting out there, there'd be an old building, an old, like a shed or an old barn, and they'd put plank benches, tables, and then benches, and then they had a bar across there. You could get beer and get cigarettes and candy bars and stuff like that, and we was all in there talking. Here come, they took 5 German officers as prison, and here they marched him in there, and he come as close to me as you, because I was sitting on the end of the bench and walked down there, down so far and turned. Boy, they had those boots, those uniforms, sure good looking. You could hear a pin drop. Everybody stopped talking. There's nothing in there but women and men soldiers was in there. I didn't drink. I didn't like, I started smoking over there. Everybody smokes. I never did smoke till I went into service, and after I got out, I quit.
Okay. Now, Miss Inez, why did they want the women, what were you doing that the men, did you relieve the men of some of their duties?
Oh, God, yes.
So
they'd pull a man out, and there's all that duties that we did.
Okay, like what? Keeping
Anything. Anything. I worked in the motor pool supply. I worked in the post office. I worked in all kinds of supplies, whatever it was. I worked in what was that called? I worked in a telephone deal too. That was called
communication.
Yeah, but they had another name for it. It worked in that, and it's like a telephone office made up in some old building.
Okay. Did you ever have to go behind enemy lines?
Any what?
Enemy lines. Did you ever have to go behind enemy lines?
No, we've always had to go across the channel. You see, the channel comes down,
yeah.
And we was right there on that channel, and it was foggy all the time. You couldn't see.
Okay.
Even in the daytime, you hardly ever saw sunshine.
So y'all stayed on this side of the channel.
And we went up there, and you had to cross over in a boat, and over there was a hill up there, and them Germans was all dug in up in there, and they had guns up there, and when you went there, they opened up. And them boats, they just mowed them down.
You women were not involved in that, though.
We were camped in a Sherwood forest, and then see when we put us on the ship to cross over, there's when they opened up.
Okay.
And them boys had their grenades, their hand grenades.